Welcome back, Sebastian here. It's time for my review for the 2025 Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Pretty good race, I thought. A lot more exciting, a lot more overtakes than I think many, including myself, thought going into the weekend. It was, quite a few moments, I would say. The two safety cars in particular definitely were pretty important turning points in the race and definitely had a pretty big impact on the overall end result. Some cases more so than others, but nonetheless, I think, pretty good race. And I think, pretty good send off for the Imola circuit, as, in all likelihood, this is going to be the final race at Imola in F1 for quite a while. So, taking a look at the start, let's see if I can get my notes right side up. That's always important. So, started with Piastri on pole, pretty good lap in qualifying yesterday. Verstappen P2, splitting the two McLarens as well as Russell. So, Norris a little bit on the back foot going into the grids, going into the race starting P4. Hamilton and Antonelli both opted to start on the hard tires, so going for an alternative strategy. And Tsunoda was forced to start from the pit lane after his big crash yesterday. Not a big surprise. I think Colapinto as well, also a one-place grid penalty for going into the fast lane before it was open. So instead of starting 15th, he started 16th. A little bit lucky, I think, as well for him not to have a pit lane start after he had a pretty big crash as well in qualifying. So we get to the start, and I think initially Piastri has the better start. Russell, good start too. And going into the first corner, it looks like Verstappen is going to be falling down to third on the grid with, Piastri first and Russell P2. But no, Verstappen going around the outside of what I call turn one. It's really officially turn two, but in my notes I refer to it as turn one. You see Verstappen basically send this absolutely insane move, goes down the outside and around Piastri. Admittedly, a little bit maybe too. Piastri, I think, admittedly broke maybe a little bit too early for the corner. I know Russell was on the radio as well, saying, what is Piastri doing? Basically something along those lines. So Verstappen's now ahead going in out of that first Tamburello chicane. Piastri P2 and Russell P3. On that opening lap, the other driver to lose positions was notably Hadjar, who lost a couple of positions. Ocon as well was in the pits on the opening lap. Not entirely sure what that was about. I think if we got puncture damage or if that was just, plain old strategy call. Lap 3, another incident here. This time, Gasly, a bit of a mistake, a clumsy mistake by him in a race where I think he really could have gotten, quite a few points. I'd say 8th place, 9th place, 10th place. I think all those positions were definitely on the card for Gasly. Basically, I think Leclerc was trying to overtook him going out of Tosa, and Gasly basically just understeers and goes off into the gravel, and he drops 5 spots down the order there. So a bit of an unfortunate mistake there by Gasly. Lap 7, Colapinto as well, a bit of a mistake, goes to the gravel at Rabazza. So both Alpines in the gravel in the opening 10 laps. Norris starting to put pressure on Russell. Russell really struggling for pace today. In the Mercedes, I think a bit of a surprise in that opening stint, basically similar pace or even slower than Alonso's Aston Martin in 5th. We'll get to the Aston Martins a bit later, of course. But so Norris putting pressure on Russell, and Alonso and Sainz both following as well, kind of showing they had both either had really good pace or Russell was really, really struggling in that opening stint. Let's see. So that is, and then a couple laps later, Norris would be able to get the move the following lap, I believe, at Villeneuve chicane up to P3. And this is where the pit cycle starts. So very, very early. I think quite a few teams deciding, let's go for the two-stop strategy. And because, the tires were already wearing out quite a bit. So Leclerc lost in the first two drivers to pit. This would have pretty big ramifications on a couple other drivers further up the field. So lap 12, Russell pits to cover off Leclerc, and Sainz does as well. And Leclerc undercuts both, so now he's basically up into a virtual P4. Lap 14, Piastri pits, basically tries to undercut Verstappen, retake the lead, but has a bit of a slow stop, and he comes out in quite a bit of traffic, and he's basically miles off. Lap 15, Stroll pits, and lap 17, Piastri overtakes Tsunoda at turn 1 after Tsunoda was basically asked on the team radio to hold up Piastri because, of course, his teammate's leading the race at this point. So again, Tsunoda trying to, play the number 2 driver role, kind of the support driver role, not really able to do so too effectively. Tire delta just too big in that instant. But Piastri, forcing his way past other drivers, really has to make up ground if he wants to make this strategy work. Lap 20, he gets past Behrman and Colapinto as well. At this point, it felt like one of those races where it felt like those drivers who had already pitted a bit too early, and there were some who were even saying like a one stop looked likely at this point, given that the drivers who hadn't pitted yet, they were basically either pulling away in some cases or basically maintaining the gap to those who had already pitted. So it looked like the fresh tires weren't giving that much of an advantage. And likely, I think, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, realistically, the teams in Pirelli are the only ones who really know this. But likely, I feel like they probably went through some kind of grading phase, which sometimes happens. But once you get past that initial grading phase, tires clean up a bit, you can kind of regain your initial pace. So sometimes drivers aren't sure which one of the two it is. Is it the tire basically going off a cliff, in which case pitting is definitely the right decision, or is it just kind of this temporary graining, in which case it's better to stay out. And I think in this case, that was it looked like that was possibly what had happened here. So a lot of those drivers who had pitted early, a lot of them, again, not great results at the end of this. But there were definitely other circumstances, other things that played into that and made that initial pit decision worse. Lap 28, Piastri up to P4 at this point, forced to overtake basically roughly 10 cars on track, I felt. So again, using up a lot of that purchase of the tire on those hards. And this is where the first brake turning point of the race is, as Esteban Ocon pulls over at the side of the track and basically stops just outside of, just after Tosa. And right before the virtual safety car came out, which eventually would, Lando Norris pits. And so that basically takes up Verstappen's only other remaining competition. Of course, Piastri at this point is, well outside of pit window, lost too much time overtaking cars, but Norris is kind of thereabouts, 10 seconds behind. And if things had gone the other way around, if Verstappen had been the one to pit, Norris had stayed out, we could have been talking about a very, very different race. But Norris pits, and a little bit unfortunate for him. Basically, that virtual safety car comes out just at the perfect time for Verstappen, allowing him to pit as well as pretty much everyone else. And, in Miami, basically the luck was the other way around. Norris got very much lucked out with the virtual safety car in the sprint. Verstappen was a bit hard done by both the safety car at the end and by the the sprint, basically in the main Grand Prix where he lost that podium to Russell. Sometimes, so you can see very, very quickly how that luck can kind of go back, swing back the other way. So basically everyone pits, even those who had already pitted basically in that first phase, switching, basically doing their second of their two stops, so they don't really gain anything on track, and it basically completely neutralizes any advantage that they would have had by doing a two-stop versus a one-stop at this point, basically wrecking the strategy of all those drivers, including Leclerc, including Sainz, as well as basically Piastri and Russell were all kind of, pretty negatively affected by this at this point in proceedings. So basically after the virtual safety car was done, you had Albon in third, Hadjar in fifth, Piastri again second stop as well when your virtual safety car ends on lap 31. And this is where I think the race really kind of spiced up, and you had a lot more overtaking because you had quite a few cars that won, very, very different tires and massively different tire deltas as well. So lap 34, Hamilton overtakes Antonelli at P6 for turn 1. Lap 35, Russell overtakes Stroll for P10. Lap 36, Hamilton overtakes Hadjar as well. So Hamilton really, really strong pace in this middle phase of the race, I believe, on the medium tire. Lap 38, Leclerc putting pressure on Antonelli, overtakes him at turn 1 for P7. Ferrari at this point looked like they have really, really strong race pace. That's why I wrote. Lap 39, Hülkenberg in the pits, Hülkenberg in the points, I should say, overtakes Alonso at turn 1. So the Aston Martins, both of them pitted. That was, an absolutely diabolical decision. Should have split the strategy, only basically left one of them out to do the one stop, kind of what Albon and Hadjar did, and left another to pit early with the other group. It doesn't matter which one you do, it's just that they should have split the strategy. They were really the only team that had, out of the cars that near the front, that had both cars. They were really the only ones that basically opted to do both going early, pitting early, and I think, definitely the wrong decision there. Lap 40, Piastri overtakes Albon as well. So Albon, unfortunately, was 20 23 laps to go left in the race. He is kicked out of a podium, but still very impressive for Williams that they can be in a podium position pretty much on merit. With 2/3 of the way through a Grand Prix. Unfortunately, weren't able to get a podium today, but still, really, really impressive, and shows such a massive turnaround that they've made the last couple years. Both Aston Martins out of the points at this point, so I'm like, not great, and absolutely terrible luck for Alonso as well after starting P5, which was a great result in qualifying yesterday. Lap 41, Leclerc overtakes Hadjar for P6, and this is where we get our second retirement of the race as Antonelli retires with some kind of mechanical issue, and this brings out safety car. Verstappen decides to take the free stop, pits again, so he goes on to a 2-stop. Piastri stays out, doesn't have fresh tires. Hamilton, Hadjar both pit. Leclerc up to 4th because he does not have fresh tires as well. So he's basically kind of a sitting duck at this point, and he's probably having PTSD from the 2022 British Grand Prix. Obviously, very different circumstances there, but you kind of can't help but feel that it was very similar situation there. Lap 53 safety car ends, very long safety car, even though you can see in the picture there's not a massive gap, massive distance from Antonelli's car to kind of the gap where he's walking towards where you can see the Marshall post. It took quite a long time for that car to get recovered. They had to bring a truck out, crane it up onto the truck, and then drive the truck away. So it took a lot longer than I probably should have, and that took like 6 or 7 laps, I would say, because you had lap 46 was the incident, and the safety car ended lap 53. So that's basically 7 laps right there. Lap 54, clean restart. Verstappen keeps his lead, isn't really under any pressure, and I think basically from turn 1 where he took the lead, after I'd say the virtual, very good chance I thought he was going to win. After the virtual safety car, basically no chance that Verstappen was going to lose this Grand Prix. Tsunoda overtakes Hulkenberg for P10. Bit gutted for Hulkenberg. It would have been nice to see him get points, but really lucked out with the first virtual safety car. Albon overtakes Norris, both noted for safety car infringement, but no further investigation there. Lap 57, Hamilton overtakes Russell for P6. And lap 58, Piastri's at this point P2, Norris P3. We get our first wheel-to-wheel battle between the two McLarens, and Norris is the one who comes out on top, overtakes Piastri at P2. At the Tamburello chicane. A couple laps later, another incident, lap 60. Albon goes in the gravel, turn 1, trying to overtake Leclerc. Leclerc was a little bit naughty, basically takes the racing line, doesn't leave Albon really any room on the exit of that corner. And again, it's the exact same kind of stuff that Verstappen's been penalized many, many times in the past for. But, in this particular instance, that's actually what happened here. So in the process, Albon loses a position to Hamilton, and then Hamilton overtakes Leclerc as well into P4 at turn 1 before being asked to give the position back to Leclerc. So Leclerc basically, they saw that he had less than 5 seconds between himself and the car behind, so they basically opted to just give the position to Albon, and that was that. No further action. So very, very close to the end of the race at this point, and Max Verstappen takes the checkered flag, wins the second Grand Prix of the season, and I think the stat I saw was that this is the let's see, he's one of now only 4 drivers, including himself, who has won at least two races in a season for 9 consecutive seasons, joining Schumacher, Prost, and Senna. So not even Hamilton's done that, because I believe 2013, Hamilton only had 1 win that year. But very, very impressive by Verstappen, and I believe he breaks Michael Schumacher's record for consecutive wins at Imola as well, with 4 consecutive wins at this track. So very impressive by Verstappen. Don't be surprised when he's number 1 in my power rankings tomorrow, I should say, or maybe it might be a bit later today, depending on where in the world you live. But taking a look at your result for the 2025 Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. So joining Max Verstappen on the podium are your 2 McLarens. Norris ahead of Piastri. 4th Hamilton, very good drive from him. Helped a little bit by that first virtual safety car, but still capitalized on the alternative strategy. 5th Albon, 6th Leclerc, 7th Russell, 8th Sainz, 9th Hadjar, 10th Tsunoda. Bit of a good comeback from him. Looking at the race pace charts, lap time differences between himself and Verstappen, not particularly good. I think he was on average 1.3 seconds a lap slower than Verstappen. Of course, being in clean air versus traffic will do that to you, but benefited from the timing of the VSC. So again, finished a little bit higher than if there had been no, virtual safety cars or safety cars in this race. So again, a little bit lucky to get a point, especially given how much of a gap there was just in pace difference. 11th Alonso, so gutted for him. Definitely deserved a point. Very, very good pace in qualifying, and yeah, just got screwed over with the Aston Martin's terrible strategies this weekend. 12th Hulkenberg, 13th Gasly, 14th Lawson, 15th Stroll, 16th Colapinto, 17th Behrman, 18th Bortoletto, and your two DNFs, Antonelli and Ocon. For your championship standings, Piastri's gap at the top shrinks a little bit. He's now sitting on 146 points, with Norris second on 133, so 13 points back. Verstappen right there, only 22 points behind Piastri, with quite a few races to go, and we're entering into the European leg of the season, which are many of these tracks are kind of Verstappen's happy hunting grounds. So if this kind of pace that we saw this weekend from the Red Bull, especially in the races, if that is real, if that can be continued, sustained through the European leg of the season, exiting Europe standings could look very, very different. 4th Russell, 99 points. 5th Leclerc on 61. 6th Hamilton on 53. 7th Antonelli on 48. 8th Albon on 40. Only 8 points back of Antonelli in the Mercedes. So very, very impressive by Albon. Does that, well, yeah, I do think that is, yeah, that is a little bit off there. Oh well, that can't be helped. Apparently Antonelli's now British and he drives for Mercedes, but that's, yeah, whatever. We'll get past that. Okay. 9th Ocon, 14, 10 Stroll also on 14, still somehow sitting there, but Sainz is pretty quickly catching up to them. He's sitting on 11th in the standing on 11 points. 12th Tsunoda on 10, 13th Gasly on 7, tied with Hadjar, who's also on 7, and then everyone else, of course, didn't score this weekend, so sitting on 6 points are Hulkenberg and Behrman, and then everyone else is on 0, and of course, Colapinto is now driving, so he now is in the standing, so we now have 21 drivers in a 20-driver grid. In terms of your Constructors' Championship, McLaren extend their lead there. Mercedes, not a great weekend for them, and for Red Bull, I think they actually get a little bit closer to Mercedes. 4th are Ferrari, I think a decent turnaround for them, especially given how bad qualifying was. And for Williams, they're really solidifying that 5th place in the Constructors. I'm not going to say they're guaranteed 5th, but they're doing a very, very good job of consolidating that, kind of bit like Aston Martin last year. So there you go. There's my review for the 2025 Emilia Romagna Grand Prix. Definitely a more exciting race than I think many people were expecting going into the weekend. And yeah, fitting send off for that track. So next up is Monaco. Definitely qualifying, definitely a qualifying race, I should say. And again, we're having a mandatory 2-stop strategy there this weekend, so it'll be interesting to see if that mixes things up at all. But I'll be back, I'd say today, tomorrow, later for my power rankings, and I'll talk to you again soon. So thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.